Hello everyone, welcome to EVE Online, welcome to Galent, and welcome to the Frontline. My name is Chuck Blevins, and today I want to show you some fights that I've had in my Crucifier Navy issue. It's a super fun ship with a lot of potential, and I have to say it's a shame I don't see it around much these days. Before we get started with the video though, I just want to say I know it's been a while since my last upload, and I'm sorry about that. I don't record my fights very often, so it takes me some time to get enough good fights to put into a video like this one. If you do want to see more content like this, leave a comment. I read all of them and I would love your feedback. And one last note, if you want to learn how to PvP in this game, go check out Faction Warfare. There's plenty of corps and players that'll teach you how to fight and make ISK while doing it. The Galent Militia in particular has an excellent corporation, the Frog Pond, which is new player friendly and it's filled with great people. Now, without further ado, let's get on with the fit. The Crucifier Navy Issue is a very unique frigate. It's one of the faction E-War frigates, so it gets a bonus, a very interesting bonus to the faction's E-War. In this case, it gets a very, very large bonus to weapon disruptor effectiveness, but that comes at a cost of basically no range for it. It also gets a bonus to damage per Amarr frigate level. So with that in mind, here's the fit that I use for all the fights in this video. It's a pretty standard Brawl fit. We have two small focus pulse lasers. These are the biggest type of small pulse laser. We also have a scoped nose. This is because this ship is pretty cap hungry, and with the nose it's just barely stable. That nose will keep us alive if we get neutered out, or it'll help us keep our tackle mods on if somebody tries to neut us off. And in the mids we've got a Scrambler Afterburner and a tracking disruptor. Pretty typical Brawl setup. Scram web to hold the opponent down, Afterburner for some speed. The tracking disruptor is what really makes this fit special. You can see here, when I script it, it is a 50% tracking disruptor, which is significantly more than a Crucifier, but it only goes out to around 10 kilometers before falling off. So if you can get under an opponent's guns with this ship, you're basically going to be unhittable. Now in the lows we have a damage control, heatsink, and a small ancil. Just a little bit of tank and damage. An older version of this fit, I had actually put a plate in the lows here for a little bit extra EHP. You can see EHP goes from 5.4 to 6.1k EHP, but as I experimented with this fit, the speed penalty from the plate here ended up being not worth it, really. And besides, with 3 bulkheads in the rigs, you're dealing with a pretty decent buffer anyways. The biggest thing about this ship is getting it to a point where you're mitigating most of the incoming damage. That's another reason I got rid of the plate, because if you're mitigating all your damage, you don't need the extra tank. So yeah, it's a pretty simple fit, but it's a whole lot of fun, so let's get on to some fights. This first fight is against a Merlin. A Merlin is not the hardest fight for this ship, because it is a T1 frigate. However, they shouldn't be underestimated, because they can have 2 webs, and a double web ship would have complete range control over me. So you can see here, I burn in to start, making sure I can get a heated scram on him first thing. I have long range ammo loaded right now, and I get my range TD on him as fast as possible, assuming he's blaster fit. And you can see here he's already missing me, and he is blaster, so I settle in at around 3 kilometers here, and switch to Conflagration. The optimal for conflag on this fit is almost 4 kilometers, so I decided to get greedy and dive in as close as I can while doing max damage, and you can see here he goes down pretty quick. It's a very glass Merlin. Good fight. This next fight is against a Comet. Originally I pull range here, guessing that he might be blaster fit. But as you can see, once he starts shooting me, he's pulling away, and he's hitting me with railguns. So I immediately decycle my tracking disruptor, switch ammo to long range, and I switch my tracking disruptor to tracking speed. I hit orbit 500, but I'm basically straight line approaching him, so I end up manually piloting at a little bit of an angle just to increase some transversal. He's a neut fit, as you can see, and right around here he turns his neut off because he's running low on cap, but so am I. Now I actually make a pretty big mistake here. I overheat my Afterburner for one cycle too many, and it burns out right here. Thankfully I am close enough to him that I switched to high tracking close range ammo, and I'm winning the DPS race at the moment. And he actually drops web here because he capped himself out with his newt. So now it's just a DPS race. My Nos is keeping my guns up. He starts to pull range here just before he's about to die, so I quickly switch over to Scorch and secure the kill. Very good fight. This next fight here is against a Caldar Navy Hookbill, which is a missile ship. Not the greatest since I have a tracking disruptor on right now, but I still decided to give it a try just to see how things will go. And this ship is cheap enough that I can throw it away. I immediately just start to align out, pull range, but as you can see he's approaching me right away, and he gets his double webs on me. It's a pretty safe assumption that every Hookbill you see is going to have 2 webs on it. He's very easily controlling me here, even as I try to pull range. He's staying in a tight-ish orbit around me. Tight enough that I think about switching to multi-frequency, and I actually do. I notice his shield is going down fast, which gives me a little bit of hope. But he has an armor rep, as you can see. So I know I'm going to lose this fight. But it was worth a shot. Good fight. This next fight is against a different Hookbill. This one I had scattered out beforehand, and he is dual rep. I've flown the dual rep Hookbill before. I have a video on it on this channel. But he is not a super experienced pilot, so I decided to try my best and fight him with this TD Crucifier Navy Issue. Immediately I start here by pulling out of web range and just hitting him with Scorch and my drones. I'm trying to wear him down as much as I can before I'm forced to dive in. He started with rage loaded here, so he's not hitting me at the moment, but I'm guessing that he will eventually switch over to javelin rockets in order to hit me out here. And when he does, he's going to have DPS that I can actually tank, since both of his lows are tanking modules. You can see here he makes that switch right now. So I react immediately, web scram on, loading conflag, and just keeping at range in my optimal. I miss a little bit of shots here as I come in, but once I get into position here, I basically volley through his armor. His rep is not going to be able to keep up with my DPS, and since I was shooting him for a while outside of his range, that medium ancillary shield booster, all of its charges are already gone, so he goes down pretty quick. But yeah, good fight. This next fight is against a Republic Fleet Firetail. These ships are really scary, because they can be fit in a bunch of different ways, and some of them are dual web, which is death for me. You can see here he volleys me almost instantly, so I know he's a dual web artillery fit. So immediately I switch gears, switch my ammo to close range, switch my tracking disruptor, I burn in, try to orbit at 2 kilometers, and you can see he's hitting me heavily here. So I immediately burn directly down, trying to pull up as much transversal as possible. He almost kills me right there, but as I start to get slightly more transversal, I barely start taking his volleys. His rockets are his only threat to me now that I have enough transversal to completely get his guns to miss. But even as I just run out of paste, my unloaded Ancil is barely able to keep up with the rocket damage. And although I am double webbed, I'm able to keep manually piloting to keep up that transversal. And as he tries to pull away, get more range on me, we cross here. My higher tracking than him is just what pulls me ahead in this fight, and as you can see my drone DPS also is tickling him, and finally before he can volley me one more time, and just before he gets out of my scram range, he goes down. Excellent fight. This fight is against a Catalyst Navy Issue, and when I first made this fit I was really excited to try that against a Catalyst Navy Issue, but the only Catalyst Navy Issues I've found were Railcat Navies. Brawlcat Navies are obviously a pretty good fight for this ship, since I can pull range and just TD them off, sit at around 8 kilometers and just wear them down. But the Tenement Kite version of the Catalyst Navy is very hard to fight, for most ships, really. But when you're in a frigate, an AB frigate, it gets even more difficult. The reason it's so hard to kill a Rail Catalyst Navy Issue is because it is Tenement fit, so they have complete range control, They have a long point, so it's very hard to burn out of point range and leave. And they have a web, so if you get too close and try to get under guns, they can web you and pull away again. So this whole fight, I was trying to dance in and out of web range. Whenever he burned towards me, I tried to slingshot past him. And for the most part it was working here. You can see I've started to stabilize, but every time I feel like I'm stable, he starts pulling range again, and I just start completely dying to his pretty strong damage. You can see here I try to just burn out of point range here. I get decently far, but Catalyst Navies have very good agility even with a 10 men, so I burn in one more time, try to slingshot around him. You can see he actually drops point here, but I was too slow to notice. I do a line out, and he gets a web on me. I think he's capped out here, but right when I try to warp, he kills me. So good fight. This next fight is against an Enyo. Enyos are kind of like catalysts in assault frigate form. They are T2 frigates, so you would think this matchup would be a bit more even, but since I have a TD and pretty good range control, I'm pretty confident going into this fight. However, this Enyo is Afterburner fit. Most Enyos are micro warp drive fit, but Afterburner fit does have its perks, one of them being it can actually catch up to frigates. So I'm a little bit nervous as he burns towards me, but as you can see I am pulling a little bit of range, so I start to relax. I haven't tried the Afterburner Enyo. It does seem like a pretty fun ship. It's got some good numbers on it, maybe a future video. But you can see here I'm pretty comfortable sitting outside of his range, and he realizes that he's not hitting, and so he tries to burn away from me. Now, I am barely losing ground here, because I've already used a lot of heat on my Afterburner. Before this fight I had fought a Tristan that I basically instantly popped before it could get drones on me, so I did use some heat. However, I don't have any more heat to use to catch up to this Enyo, so as he pulls slightly farther and farther away I have to eat my scram, and I'm worried I'm not going to be able to get on the kill before he's able to pop out of my scram range, but as you can see it's just barely enough, and right as I burn out my prop he goes down. Good fight. Now this last fight is against a very intimidating ship, the Kikimora. Sliding on a Kikimora is a terrible idea in basically any frigate, because they can start at range, and most Kikimoras have a micro warp drive. As you can see, he's starting at range, and he has a micro warp drive. However, his confidence got the best of him, and he burns into me, letting me get a scram on him right away. Originally I had range loaded to sort of entice him to get closer, but immediately I am forced to switch to tracking here. Kikimoras have spooling damage and very good tracking, so I am very quick to get under his guns here, and I am incredibly thankful he does not have a web. Most Kikimoras don't. Usually they're shield tanked with a micro warp drive and a disruptor with full damage in the lows, but even a glancing shot right there does half of my armor and damage. So I heat my prop and my TD as much as I can as I start to chew through his armor. But yeah, this is the reason I don't always use Conflag, because Conflag would be missing in this scenario. You can see my multi-frequency is already grazing and only barely hitting, even as I just orbit 500 on this guy. His occasional shots have already gone through all of my paste, but thankfully he doesn't have an insanely huge structure buffer, so I am able to just barely take him out. Super good fight. And there you have it. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll leave you all with the grand reveal here as I pull up that Kikimora's kill mail and loot its wreck. But yeah, stay tuned for next time, and it was great having you.